into Shannon Library. We're delighted to see such a big crew of you out here this evening. Before we start, can I just ask you to note our emergency exits. So the door you come in by, and there's a second emergency exit down the back of the library to the right. So I'm going to hand you over now to Dominic, who's going to introduce.
Thanks, Rita. As Rita said, my name is Dominic Taylor, and I'm the director of the Limerick Writers Centre. And I'd like to express my gratitude to all of you for coming out tonight to celebrate the publication of Write So, an anthology of work by the Shannon Amherst Writers Group, headed up by tutor Madge O'Callaghan. This new publication marks the 159th title we have helped see into print since the inception of our community publishing project in 2009. So, thank you very much. Since then, our publishing activities have overseen many genres. Lots of poetry, short story, memoir, history, and the novel. And our prime motivation is to promote writing within the community. And as a community-focused organisation, our aim is always to give writers and poets the opportunity to see their work in print. And that's why we actively encourage writers, from the serious career-minded to people who write for pleasure, healing, personal growth, insight, or just to inform. Within the pages of Write So, there is beauty, insight, and the music of words lovingly crafted. Heartwarming tales unfold, highlighting the genuine connection with the roots and soil of this community of writers. We at the Limerick Writers Centre firmly believe that writers, like the contributors to Write So, deserve to see the fruits of their labours manifest themselves in the form of a published book. Some years ago, the demise of the printed book was confidently predicted. Well, bookshops are still selling printed books, libraries are still cataloguing printed books, and publishers are still publishing printed books. Books are still a powerful form of dialogue and communication between individuals and communities. And even though the technology of the book is old, it is still cutting edge. So, thank you again for being here tonight, sharing with family and friends the writings of the Shannon Amherst Writing Group, and to immerse yourselves in the literary world they have crafted. And now I'm honoured to introduce a literary luminary and best-selling novelist, Donal Ryan, who will officially launch the book for us. Donal.
I really was thrilled to be asked to launch this book because, first of all, it's so beautiful. It's so beautifully done. And anything I think that Dominic has a hand in would be so. He's a real hero for writers, and I know he's an old friend, and I know how tirelessly he works on behalf of writers and writing, and how closely he gets involved with every project. And to have someone of Madge's calibre as a tutor is incredible. So I know how much work went into it, and it really paid off. Because language is a gift, and as Madge points out, and as the Amherst edicts make clear, it's a gift that belongs to all of us. To use language to create art is a noble pursuit, one that requires empathy, patience, skill and time. It's an act of generosity to sublimate experience and imagination into a written story or poem, to cast some light on the shadowy places we can all inhabit, to attempt to understand how it might feel to be somebody other than ourselves, or to make a record of our own selves. Language and stories sometimes seem to be all we have to share with our fellow humans, to see the world as others see it, to show others how we see the world, especially now as division and conflict burgeon moment by moment, as empathy is sidelined, as ideologies are given more importance than life itself. This anthology is a perfect example of language being used for its most noble purpose, as the gift that it is. This book is full of gifts. These are sometimes playful pieces, subverting the reader's expectation in devilish style. A spectator at a hurling match turns out to be a scar from a wound sustained by one of the players. A mysterious toilet contains 3 polite ducks. The gift of a toy car sparks a child's unaccountable rage. Little gems such as these have the power to occupy a reader's entire mind. In the moment of reading, and in that lovely place that can follow, where a story lingers and expands and reveals new meaning in its contemplation. Language is under attack. War is being waged on truth. The simple, elegant, and inalienable truth that no possession is worth a life, that the earth's bounty is enough for all of us, is being obliterated moment by moment before our eyes. As writers, we have an obligation to reclaim language from propagandists, from extremists, from fundamentalists. As members of a writers' group, you are members of a small army, a militia of peace and understanding. Your weapon is language. And the more you use it to share stories, the more potent it becomes. You are using your good words to combat those who wield their words with malign intent. Whether you're telling a story about an outsider winning the Grand National, or the grief of losing a loved one to dementia, or the threat posed to native hedgerows by so-called progress, or writing a hopeful poem about the ways we stayed connected to each other during the pandemic, a true writer seeks always to reveal, uplift, and edify. This anthology is a beautiful act of reclaim of language. It's a sharing of grief and joy and humour and truth. It's a monument to memory, to hope, to friendship and family. It's an act of defiance in this age of spin and propaganda. It's a beautiful and important thing, and you should be very, very proud of it. It's my pleasure and privilege to declare Right So to be launched.
Thank you. Okay, so you're all very welcome here this evening, ladies and gentlemen. The format tonight is that we're going to ask people to read some of the pieces that they've put into the books, and then we're going to sell you the books, and we hope you're going to buy them so that we can pay for the publishing that's been done at this stage. And then we're going to take a break to do that. There's also tea and coffee at the back, and we'll have a little bit of music in between as well. So the first person to read this evening is Catherine Matney. Now we all know her as Kay, but she's down here as Catherine. So would you give a warm welcome for Kay O'Malley?
I try not to screech anymore. This piece is a memory from my childhood. It's called Mount Kilimanjaro. It wasn't me. I didn't do it. It's not my fault. 'Twas him, I swear. No one listened. No one believed me. I was wrongly convicted without judge or jury, and I was sentenced to an endless afternoon stuck in my bedroom, a lifetime to me. I had to stay there until told otherwise. The sun was split in the stones. Everyone was out playing. My sister Mary was sitting on the steps licking a lollipop with a big white bandage on her finger. It was a lime-flavoured pop too, my very favourite. Every so often she would look up at my window and stick out her green tongue at me, and I was burning up with rage at the unfairness of the universe. The whole thing started with a rusty mousetrap that I had found at the back of the shed. I was showing Mary how to use it. A good deed, certainly. She might need that knowledge someday. We were standing on Mount Kilimanjaro, a small mound near the back garden wall that looked into the circus field. This was a very special location to us children. Everything important seemed to happen there. When the circus came to town, they set up on that field, and we could stand on Kilimanjaro and watch them going up the big top. We might even see a camel or some white horses. And all the circus people running around. To us, they were people from another planet. I begged a crusty piece of bread from the kitchen, and lesson mousetrap was well underway when Matty, my demon brother, climbed Kilimanjaro, grabbed the trap and took over the lesson, explaining how everything worked, even though I had done all that already, and better. In the process, he managed to spring the trap on Mary's finger. She screamed blue murder. Matty jumped off Kilimanjaro and into the circus field and legged it along inside the wall, out the gate, into the lane and away. Everyone came running. 'Twas him. He did it. He's in the field. Look. Everyone looked. No sign of Matty as usual. His biggest talent was getting himself out of trouble. Matty is playing football with his pals. Don't be telling lies now. That was the verdict. Mary turned traitor for some reason. I suppose any culprit was better than none when you were hoping for compensation. So there I was, locked up. I still remember the feeling of injustice. When Matty finally sauntered home, all innocent after his great game of football, he winked at Mary and me. We held our counsel, but we stared him down. He knew blackmail when he saw it. We got 2 Cleves toffees each to buy our silence. It wasn't all bad.
Thanks so much, Kay. And I was supposed to do this before she read. Kay is a long-term member of the Shannon Amherst Writers Group, and this is her bio in the back of the book. She enjoys the friendship, support and encouragement of her fellow writers, and she really appreciates that. She enjoys the scope and variety of what they do. She's been writing to some degree since childhood, and it is a wonderful pastime. She finds that the more she writes, the more she enjoys reading and seeing how other people do it. So our next reader this evening is Karen Kenny. Now Karen's bio is very short because Karen is one of our newest members. She likes long walks, she's a student of nature, and she's a long life fan of David Attenborough. And Karen actually she's the age balance in our group, but she is also the ecologist in our group. She reminds us of how important it is to be kind to nature and to look after particularly our bees. So Karen, would you like to read?
The next piece. I am from a small town. I am from the child that collected frogs, crabs and frog spawn in buckets down the local woods. I am from the child that threw cats off the top of what was called a mental asylum and marvelled at watching them fall gracefully and landing on their feet. I am from 1980s Catholic, Republican, Conservative Ireland. I am from skipping Mass and throwing up and vomiting after my first smoke of Woodbines at 12 years of age, stolen from a friend's house. I am from an Ireland where you should be seen but not heard. I am from the child that glimpsed outside the school windows to see a teacher getting punched in the face by a disgruntled, angry parent who their only son was previously beat up by that teacher the day before. I am from the streets of widely burnt turf and coal and John Clare blues, my smoke of choice at that time in my youth. I am from bonfire nights and excitement just down the end of our road, our turf. I am from carefree days where we didn't worry what someone thought of us on the internet or even in person at times. You see, it was a slow dial-up process. The internet was not as interactive as it is now in my time of youth. I am from the child that guzzles Linden Village bottles at the local park, which is now an area of various apartment blocks in Shannon Town. I am from misspent youth and carefree days. Back then nobody had an iPhone to catch you out at your worst or lowest point, or point out when you were drinking and carefree. If they did manage to carry a clunky camera, it would be hit or kicked out of their hands or smashed into concrete and a fight would ensue. True story. There was no moments of snivelling cowards waiting in the long grass to catch you out. That was done face to face. In real time, in the real world, where most of us have forgotten by now and live two-dimensional lives wholly online. From Hinge to Tinder to Facebook to Twitter to Instagram. No eBay either. I like eBay. No bullying or bad dates to take home with you in your bag on your iPhone or whatever eye-wateringly expensive piece of technology you have. No harsh judgment on Instagram existed in my days of youth, where we were fine and didn't need to keep up with the Kardashians, whoever they were. I am from a time of no harsh online comments or snap judgments on appearance, double standards intensely focused on young women. No reductive judgments on makeup, appearance, fashion sense or any of it. I'm from times of slow, clunky internet where we would rather roll around in the hay and drink cider in lazy summer lazy days. I'm from the days of no rampant, wanton, lecherous greed and consumerism of monster landlords and block buying housing against civilian classes. I am from the child who took solace in animals and healing power fluff when all was not well at home. I am from my father who did it all and burnt the candle at both ends for all of us, cared for all of us at home, and worked and didn't show any flaws or weakness. I am from stoic men and women who never complained and just got on with it. I am from a complicated history like all of us in different ways. Different experiences is what makes us who we are. Our story is still fluid and still under construction and continues to this day until the day we expire. Our story is then unfinished. Thank you.
Okay, I'm up next. Was somebody else to introduce me, or will I introduce myself? I'm Madge O'Callaghan, and I am the facilitator of the Shannon Amherst Writers Group, and that means that I write along with the group as well, which I love. And we've been doing this now for about 3 years, meeting in the library once a week on a Monday. And I suppose my background is in, what's my background in? All sorts of things. I've worked in mental health, I've worked as a psychotherapist, and I also have an MA in creative writing. And I won gold at the New York Festival of Radio in 2017, I think it was, for a radio documentary I did for RT. But I love the Monday group, I have to say. That's the highlight of my week. And I'm going to read some of this story. It's called Christmas Day 2019. She's 60 years old today. Well, 60 years ago today she came to live with us, a newborn. Although we don't really know exactly when she was born. She originally came from somewhere in the north of Ireland, a fine, sturdy baby with big brown eyes and perfectly shaped fingers and toes, all accounted for. A black child in 1950s Dublin, she was sold to our family in good faith, in the safe knowledge that she would be loved and cared for. My mother bought her, handing over cash in increments over a number of months. The day finally arrived when, payment completed, the task of delivering her to our home was given to a friend of the family, a big, burly man that we only ever got glimpses of when we were children. He usually called to our house late at night when we were asleep, and we'd been warned not to speak to him if we happened to see him in our house. We knew the rules. Lulu had a full head of tight curls and a tiny red bow attached just above her left ear, and the most gorgeous smile. She still has, a tiny dimple in her left cheek, and skin as smooth as porcelain. She made soft, murmuring sounds back then. Today, she sees everything, but says nothing. Just sits there, still smiling, skin still smooth, and the twinkle in her eyes, bright red nail varnish decorating the nails on her hand that have not been sucked clean. A tiny smear of red lipstick on her lips. Still has her own teeth, but her movement is limited now, the Irish weather. She only remembers that she came to live with this family when she was very young. She was told that she'd been living in a small cardboard box for some time before she was rescued. Her freedom was being bought by a kind woman who could ill afford to pay for her. Lulu's freedom was in doubt when that woman was admitted to hospital in November 1959. She pressed her eldest daughter into action, ensuring Lulu's freedom was bought and Lulu was collected by the family friend. On Christmas morning, Lulu was presented to me as my gift from Santa. I was 5 years old. She was the most perfect doll I had ever seen. Her pretty spotted dress and matching knickers, her red rosy lips, the bright red nail varnish on her finger and toenails, her tiny red bow attached to her hair over her left ear. She was magnificent. A black Crowley porcelain doll from Donegal, who made a glorious mama sound when she was bent over and back. I couldn't wait to show her to my mother, who was spending her 1959 Christmas in St. Kevin's Hospital. Mum, who had 10 children, must have been broken-hearted to be in hospital on Christmas Day. Imagine, 10 children, a husband, and she so ill that she couldn't go home to spend Christmas with them. That year we brought Christmas to her for a while in the hospital. Mr. Jim Langton, a big friendly man from Killala Road in Cabra West, had one of the very few cars in our neighbourhood at the time. we kids were all piled into the back of his van and taken to see my mammy in hospital. I remember telling her how Santa had brought me this beautiful doll and the smile in her face as she sat me on the bed beside her and marvelled at the generosity of Santa Claus. Next up is Liam Callahan. Now, apart from the cover, this is Liam's photograph on the cover of this book. Liam is one of our regular writers as well, and I'll just read his bio from here. He is originally from North Tipperary. We have a few Tip people here tonight, I have to say. And now resident in East Clare, married to Deirdre, 4 children and 3 grandchildren. A member of the Shannon Amherst Writers Group since COVID onset. He won a couple of prizes, he's very modest really, in the Ireland's own national annual writing competitions. Writes readers' memories pieces for the same magazine, likes to walk the hills, supports Tipperary hurling and Munster rugby, plays guitar and concertina. So Liam.
Just before I kick off, I'd just like to acknowledge the work that Madge does. She keeps us all going, keeps us in our place, and she teaches us a lot in a kind of a low-key way. She's very good at it. I'd also like just to acknowledge a man called Mike Lane, who can't make it here. His other half is here somewhere. He made a good contribution to us towards the book, so I'd like to make that available. So, this is called Haunting Melody. It was inspired by the hill walk, really. So it's a bit long, so I probably won't go through it all. I'll just read a piece of it. The light shores were tapering off as I emerged from the forest and ascended the stile set over a boggy drain across the trail. There was the vivid rainbow hanging in the sky to the east, created by evening sun slanting from behind the shoulder of Moore's sleeve, shining through the crystal raindrops. I sat on the top step of the stile, shrugged off my backpack, looking at the panorama laid out before me. Golden patches of fir stood out amongst the early summer greenery, mingled here and there with the white of blossoming blackthorns. Patriotic colours there, a natural tricolour. Shades of green abounded: oak, ash, sycamore, willow, tallgrass, hedgerow plants, standard reeds. Not as many as 40 variations, but close. Bursts of yellow primrose, clusters of bluebells, and shy purple violet decorated the banks of the lane in front of me the way onward. A whisper breeze stirred the treetops at my back. Carried on the wind, I could hear the faraway call of the cuckoo, the herald of Irish summer. Swallows twittered and swooped, sparrows and blackbirds trilled and complained, and there was a rookery and raucous voice in a gloomy cluster of tall trees in the distance along the laneway. As I sat, the sun began its descent behind the shoulder of the mountain. The shadows in the valley before me lengthened and darkened. As I swung on the backpack and stepped from the stile, I became aware of another sound, far away, faint, at the distant edge of my hearing, mingled with the birds and the whispering wind. The sound of a fiddle playing, fading in and out in the breeze, a plaintive melody full of yearning. As I made my way along the overgrown laneway, I could hear the music more clearly, the tune familiar, the name elusive. Definitely a lament, a slow air filled with loss and longing, beautifully played. The clear notes, louder now, seemed to hang shimmering in the evening air, rising and falling to the sweep of the bow. I increased my pace, anxious to meet the fiddle player. As I walked, I suddenly realised the crows had ceased their noisy squabbling and were silent. No blackbird or sparrow or swallow swooped or twittered. No sound save the whisper of the wind and the song of the violin, louder now. The shadows deepened as the lane led me into the gloom under the trees where the noisy crows had gathered. On the left side of the track, the grassy bank became a disintegrating stone wall, green with moss. A rusted iron gate, an overgrown yard, the crumbling ruin of a cottage, roof gone, opened to the sky. The fiddle played on, now close at hand, coming from the tumble-down ruin. As I laid my hand upon the rusted gate, the music ceased abruptly. The evening breeze moaned in the trees above the ruined house, a lonesome, melancholy sound. I stood there for a moment by the ruined gate, then I called out, "Where are you? That is beautiful music. You do not play it through to the end." There was no response. After a while I pushed open the gate, protesting loudly on rust-locked hinges, made my way to the overgrown yard and peered into the empty doorway, again calling out to the elusive musician. No sign of anyone, just a tumbled mass of broken slate from the collapsed roof, rotting timbers and shards of glass from the shutter windows. I fought my way through the overgrown bushes to the rear of the house, calling out as I went. Still no reply. As I crossed the yard to the gateway, I noticed the crows were back, croaking in the branches above me. I pulled the rusty gate closed, called out one last time. Nothing. I will leave it at that.
Well done. Thanks, Liam.
So now you have to buy the book to read the end of that story. Okay, thanks for that, Liam.
Thanks.
Next up, we've fellow Dub, Greg Duff. Greg. And Greg is a native of Stony Batter in Dublin. We grew up kind of in the same general area. I didn't know him then, but I know him now for the last few years. He lives in Shannon with his wife, Breda. He's a former member of Shannon Town Council. He's a member of this group. He's chair of the Shannon Family Resource Centre and one of the founding members of Dúchas na Shannon, the local heritage group. He's involved in the Shannon Wetlands Restoration Project and the Shannon Men's Shed. So, Greg.
Thanks, Madge. Surprise 1973 style. Surprise more like a shock with some of the wedding presents we got. 5 brass companion sets to keep the hearth clean and tidy, just hanging around for the fireplace. A picture of a tearful boy in blue. A brother-in-law swore it was an oil painting. Since discovered that it's not a Gainsborough, but one of 20 million printed. Another close relation, to our amazement, gave a beautiful canteen of cutlery. One hot wash, the handles came off and went floating down the Liffey. To our surprise, we got a bucket and basin from a neighbour. Was this a hint to join the Oregon Trail and head off for the goldfields of California? Back in the days when tie a yellow ribbon round the old tree was number one, some presents, I think, were decent enough. Candlewood with quilts in flowery colours, sheets, a tablecloth, Pyrex dishes, tea sets, and one dinner set. I think it came from Auntie Maisie. Ornaments, a mirror with angels, blowing horns, holy statues to ward off evil spirits, and perhaps some close relations having their pictures. Pots large enough for Napoleon's Grand Army, an electric clock with a short lead, a whistling kettle. At last, times have changed. There are different expectations. Hen and stag parties parachute into some rural locations with a shock and awe effect on the local natives, while those that have the lolly explore exotic places. Another surprise in these modern times is the wedding register, where confused relations and friends are nudged forcibly in the right direction towards crave brands and shops like Brown Thomas getting positive mention. Among the rich, gifts of cash, gold and property, I hear, can these days also get a very forceful citation. Thank you.
So thanks for that, Greg. And next person up is Geraldine Ryan. And Geraldine is a Limerick woman, but we let her in, you know. She's from Limerick, but she's been living in Shannon for a long time. For 45 years, in fact, and she only looks 30. She's recently retired and enjoying every minute of it. She has 3 grown-up children and 7 grandchildren. And her hobbies are reading, writing, music and hill walking. She's always had a love for writing, even as a little girl, and she was a member of the Inish Creative Writers Group for a while, and now enjoying writing with Shannon Amherst Writers Group. So, Geraldine, when you're ready there, please. Thank you.
Just to a microphone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Life in black and white. Tom settled into his favourite chair by the window. It was good to be home. He had just spent 3 days with his daughter on the other side of town. Anne had been more than good to him since Esther died 2 years ago. He adored Sam and Holly, his 2 grandchildren. But home was home, and that's where he wanted to stay for as long as he could. Tom was young for his 81 years, and he valued his independence. He could still drive and go to his afternoon tea dances and his weekly bingo. He also liked to meet some of his long-term friends and put the world to right over a pint and a chat. More for the company than the beer. "Why don't you come and live here?" Anne relentlessly suggested. The garage had been converted and he could have his own space, but his memories were here in this little terraced house that he had shared with Esther for 50 years. Anne had a lovely, comfortable and modern home. He was too old for modern. He just didn't like it. Everything was black and white, much too clinical. The bathroom was a sea of black and white tiles. It was more like a hotel than a family home. Even in the kitchen, the kettle was black and shiny, not like the old black kettle on the range when he was a young boy, black from the heat and the soot. The guest bedroom where he slept was also black and white. White linen, black throws. The only throw he was used to growing up was his father's old worn top coat thrown over his feet to keep them warm. Tom settled back into his comfortable chair as the rays of sunshine cast a warm glow over his tiny front room. The room door left partially open to allow him to hear the radio in the kitchen, the music of his favourite channel, playing Tchaikovsky's Waltz of the Flowers. Beside him, on the small table, the ice cracked in the glass of scotch, black and white, of course. Just the one. It was his treat, and besides, the doctor said it was good for him, strictly medicinal, and would not approve. "Alcohol is bad for you, Dad. Stick to herbal tea." Mind you, things were never black and white with her, Tom felt as she talked in riddles. "That's fine by me. Do it if you must," which of course meant fine. Don't do it. Another one, "I'm fine, okay?" ambiguously meaning she was anything but fine. Here in his own place, Tom could do what he liked. Long may it last, he thought, putting the glass to his lips and savouring the first sip. He picked up the Sunday paper and settled down to a good read. The Sunday paper was as important to him as Sunday Mass. Anne told him not to bother buying papers. It was a waste of money. He could read them online on his phone. But he liked to read it himself, to catch up on all the news and sports in black and white, even if he did doze off a few times, which of course meant it took him hours to get through the paper. But he was content in his own space, doing his own thing, and that was where he wanted to stay for now anyway.
Well done, thank you, Geraldine. That's great, thank you. Patrick Glynn, you're up next. And Pat lives in 6 Mile Bridge. We let them in as well, you know. And he joined the Shannon Amherst Writers Group in 2018, and he's enjoyed creative writing ever since. And he's gone off and done a few courses behind our backs as well, you know. Pat also has our number one fan, I have to say, is Irene, Pat's wife, who turns up for everything that we do. So thanks for that, Irene, as well. So over to you, Pat.
Summer's history. I was out walking with my wife Irene. It was a beautiful summer's evening. We decided to call into our local pub for a drink. There were just a handful of people inside. I spotted a friend of mine, Sean, at the bar, so we joined him for a drink. During our conversation, Sean left us to go to the toilet. When he returned, he looked a bit pale and unsure of himself. Are you okay? I asked. Patty, he said, would you mind going into the toilet and tell me what you see? I looked at Irene, thought to myself, this is odd. Curiosity got the better of me, I decided to go and take a look. When I opened the toilet door, I was greeted by 3 ducks walking inside. I shut the toilet door and returned to Irene and Sean at the bar. "Well," said Sean, "what did you see?" "Just 3 ducks," I said. He asked me, would it be okay if they used the toilet. Is candle in the window. You are a candle in the window on a cold and frosty night. I've lived with the darkness. She courted me well. Any time she has walked me into and stumbled me through the tunnel of darkness. Then I see you. You are like a candle in the window on a cold and frosty night. You are the light at the end of this dark tunnel. Love is my sanctuary when I'm here with you. I know all is well in our world tonight because I am wrapped in your loving arms. I need you every day of my life. You are my candle in the window on a cold and frosty night.
Thanks very much, Pat. Lovely. And thanks, Irene, for bringing them tonight as well. Our final reader is Teresa Hogan. And just before I invite Teresa to read, I just want to mention 2 people who couldn't be here tonight. 2 of our writers, Brenda McKnight and Mairead Heffernan. I didn't want to let the night go without mentioning them. Neither of them have been able to submit to this anthology, but we hope they'll be in the next one. So Teresa Hogan, another tip person that we've allowed in, and she's been living in Shannon, County Clare for 50 years. Now wait till you see her, she doesn't look 50. She's married with 2 children and 4 grandchildren. And in 2013, Teresa went back to education in pursuit of a much longed for leaving certificate. She studied English, Geography, Foundation and Ordinary Level Math, and is delighted to have got honours in all 4 subjects. Did I miss one there? No. Oh yeah, 2 maths. Around the same time, Teresa became aware of Shannon Creative Writers, also held in the Adult Education Centre. She joined that group in 2014 with her English teacher and author-director, Siobhan Mahon, later going on to write under the guidance of Ruth Marshall, poet, author, storyteller and crafter. She now writes under the direction of Madge O'Callaghan, writer and artist facilitator, who uses the Amherst method. The philosophy of its founder, Pat Schneider, is a simple one. Every person is a writer. During COVID-19 lockdown, Teresa continued writing via Zoom with Amherst Writers, Limerick Clare Education and Training Board, and participated in Future Learn, Unseen Poetry and the Creative Process with the University of Reading. She is published in 4 books. So would you give a round of applause for Teresa Hogan?
My story is called New Runners. Settling into seat 3A in carriage B on the train home from Houston, Dublin to Corporate, Limerick. No need to change at the junction for this one, I've been told, as I secured my ticket at the booth, thanking the powers that be for free travel. With a glorious book tucked in my bag, I thought all the better for no need to change. I can read the whole way through now. Here's my opportunity, my long-awaited opportunity to sit back for a leisurely read of Donal Ryan's Strange Flowers. I relished myself. Taking the dark hardback book from my grey leather shoulder bag, its front cover reminding me of a Georgia O'Keeffe painting. I savoured the weight of it, the smell, and the sound of it as the pages danced a quick step under my thumb. Turning off my phone, putting on my glasses and stretching out, I was ready to embark on a journey of familiar roads and towns. Being from Tip myself, I feel an affinity with Donal Ryan. I live and have worked my adult life in Shannon. Did you know Donal worked in Shannon too? We could almost be related, Donal. Taking a deep breath, I start to read. All the light left Paddy Gladney's eyes when his daughter disappeared. All the goodness. Just at that precise moment, the young man directly behind me decided this was his best time to make phone calls to his friends, relations, and half the population of South Tip. Hi, Mary. This is your brother Jack. Brother Jack, I ask you. A slight pause, very slight pause. I was in Dublin. Yeah, I'm on the train home. I bought runners. Oh yeah, they're white. They're good ones. See you around 6. Yeah, okay. I wait. He stays silent. All the gladness went from his heart. His days had always been so full of peace before Mal went. Hi, John. Yeah, it's Jack. I was in Dublin. Coming home now on the train. Yeah. Yeah, we'll meet in Dublin, or in Thurs. Oh, yeah, I bought runners. Yeah, they're white. They're good ones. All quiet. I gave a suspicious glance behind me and tried again. Before Mal went, he pedalled round the parish in the morning with the post, and he herded and foddered in the afternoon on the farm where he was caretaker. Oh, for God's sake, he's off again. Frank, yeah, it's Jack. Surely to God his name is in their phone. Why, this is Jack every time. Why does he have to shout? Yeah, Frank, I should be in Clonmel around 8 this evening. I'm on the train now, on my way back from Dublin. I bought runners. Oh yeah, they're white. Yeah, they're good ones. Yeah, sure, see you there. Yeah, why don't you just send him a text and let me read in peace? Quiet again. Maybe he's finished. I look around, I wait. I look back to my book hurriedly. Caretaker. Yeah, I found it. He herded and foddered in the afternoon on the farm where he was caretaker. And he walked the fences and checked the gaps and gates. Glad you answered, came the bellow from behind me. I'm on the train home. I was in Dublin. I bought runners. I slammed my glorious book shut in desperation, put on my headphones and waited for the tea trolley to come around. It's going to be a long, long journey. I don't suppose this train has a wine license.
Well done, Teresa, and thanks to everyone for reading. And that is us. We're the Shannon Amherst Writers Group. Those are our contributions, or some of them, bits of them. So we'd love you to buy our book. It's our first foray into this area, into publishing. So they're for sale over here. Dominic will be there as well to help you to buy. And we're going to take a little break now, have tea and coffee, and at 7 o'clock I'll be interviewing Donal Ryan. I thought I'd have a couch and I could tell everybody that I had an hour on the couch with Donal Ryan. It's 2 chairs. So we'll see you back here at 7 o'clock.
Okay, well done now.
Thank you.